COVID-19 has had a significant impact on the sex industry, and snap lockdowns and travel restrictions mean that there are times when sex workers require emergency financial relief in order for them and their dependents to stay safe, housed, and fed.
Sex workers don't get sick or holiday pay, and many have no savings to fall back on. The stigma and discrimination that we face means that some have no proof of earnings to access government support, and of course migrant workers are often forgotten.
Scarlet Alliance and their state and territory member organisations joined together to create an ongoing fund that is hosted on the website Chuffed, that's CHUFFED.
Donations are tax deductible, 100% of funds raised go directly to sex workers in need, and most weeks the amount of people applying outweigh the amount of funds raised, and sadly people have to be turned away. The link to this fund is in our show notes.
Welcome to Somebody You Love, or the sale of two titties. I'm Jenna Love.
And I'm Holly Hart.
And we're experts in disappointing our parents, breaching community guidelines, and banging the people who vote against our rights. Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. First up, we would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are recording. I'm on Darug and Gundungurra land, Holly is on Ngunnawal land, and our guests today are calling in from the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present, and to the continuation of the cultural, spiritual and educational practices of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples.
In case it's not already obvious, we'd like to remind you that this is an adult podcast about adult things. We talk about sex and we talk about sex work. So if that's not your jam, now's the time to go and do something far less interesting.
Now, today's episode is alarmingly blinding in its whiteness. And it's also pretty cisgendered and pretty heterosexual. So we need to stress that that is not reflective of the diversity of the sex industry. It has always been the goal of the Somebody You Love team to be able to give a platform to as wide a range of sex workers as possible. And that is something that we continue to be committed to achieving. But we also know that it's not something that we can do all at once and immediately straight out of the gate. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, or if you know somebody who might be, please go to somebodyyoulove.net/guests.
Today we are speaking to the Alice Gray. Alice is a full-service provider and internet sweetie based in Melbourne, Australia. She is a lover of intricate lingerie and rich red wine, cosy restaurants and couch cuddles. Alice has also brought along her partner, who we will be calling Mr. G. No relation to Chris Lilly for our Aussie listeners. They've been together for 2.5 years, and we thought they were the perfect way to follow up last week's episode on relationships as sex workers.
So, hi Alice, and hi Mr. G.
Welcome.
Hey friends.
Hey, thanks for having us on.
So, let's get stuck into questions, shall we?
Let's do it.
My first question is for Alice. How did you two meet?
We met on Tinder. Yeah, no, it was very cute. I was on Tinder for the whole of 48 hours scrolling through profiles, deciding that I hated life and hated Tinder. And yeah, I came across my dude and it's been great.
So was that your first time on Tinder?
No, it was my second, but it was very similar. It's just not it's not a way of meeting people that comes naturally to me. We live in this world that thrives online, and so when you sit across from someone in a cafe or on public transport and try and strike up a conversation, they think you're crazy. So it was always really awkward and, yeah, just not something that I wanted to spend a lot of time doing, but I was lucky to find someone amazing in a very short amount of time.
I can also concur that Tinder is a dumpster fire, so it's very good when you strike gold.
Yes.
Yeah, nice success story.
Question for Alice. How did you tell Mr. Gray about your line of work?
Oh, man. I put it in my Tinder bio, but unfortunately dating apps don't like sex workers, and so I had it in there that I was a small business owner for a number of years, and naturally people were sort of curious to go, oh, okay, well, what does that mean? And that would be a nice segue. But I knew that it was something that I wanted to bring up as early as I possibly could.
And so how did you go about that?
I think I was headed to a booking, and Greg asked me what I did or where I was going, and I mentioned that I was a sex worker, and it was just a bit of a nothing conversation, really. It was quite natural, and I suppose we were talking through a text-based medium, so it all looked very calm, but internally I was freaking out.
It was one of the first things. Like, it was sort of, hey, how are you? You know, a few other pleasantries, and then I think it was something along the lines of like, oh, I'm just heading off to work, so I might not be able to talk for a bit. And I was like, oh, cool. So small business kind of thing. Like, what does that involve? And like straight up, like, oh, I'm a full service sex worker. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
So how did you react to that? Is that something that you had any experience with? Did you know what a full service sex worker was?
I'd never heard the term before, but like, it's kind of pretty obvious. It's all in the name there.
Yeah, there is a lot of jargon in our industry.
Yeah.
But no, it's like, all right, like obvious, like, all right, cool. I guess I was shocked, not in like a, oh my God kind of sense, but like, to my knowledge, I've never met a sex worker before. So I was like, okay, cool, huh? But yeah, like there was definitely like a vibe happening. So I think one of the first things I did after that was like, I think I Googled like relationship with sex workers or something like that. Just kind of was like, I didn't really know how to feel. Like, then yeah, it was just kind of like, just sort of, you know, see what the internet kind of thinks.
Good thing you didn't ask Reddit, because they would have just told you to cancel it and throw her in the bin.
Yeah. Reddit's, you know, it's all over the shop depending on which subreddit you go to, but I think I found like it was a forum or maybe a blog post or something, and it was like ultimately it boils down to it's just a job, and it's like, well, that makes a lot of sense.
Alice, do you ever have any concerns about what Mr. Gray's family thinks, or if people he knows recognise you?
Those are two very separate questions. I think, you know, when you're in a relationship with someone, you do want validation from their family. You want them to like you, right? Otherwise, you know, Christmas celebrations will be very awkward. So given that Greg's family are a little bit more on the conservative side, yes, I am, and we are a little bit hesitant to tell them, and have made the decision not to share my work with them, which is a difficult decision in and of itself. And as for people recognising me, well, I'm virtually open about my work with most people in my life, aside from my own parents and Greg's parents. So if someone were to recognise me and have a problem with that, then I think that's on them.
Perfectly answered. If it's not going to out you, can you tell us what his and your parents think that you do?
Well, I have a history of work in research, so they think that I am still working there.
It's always good when it's partially true. When there's, my cover story was makeup artist for a long time, because I was trained as a makeup artist, so I could, it was easy to keep it going. Yeah,
for sure. And with the pandemic, unfortunately, a lot of research roles ended, so many people have become unemployed. I have since found employment in hospitality, which I love, but doesn't really bode well in lockdown. So everyone knows that I'm unemployed at the moment, which is fine.
Alrighty, Mr. G. So have you had any negative comments or bizarre assumptions that have come from people who know what your partner does as a job?
No, so it's like Alice's family doesn't know, so my family don't know. I kind of keep it like sort of two layers. So like the people close to me, like my close friends know, and then anyone sort of outside of that, it's Alice is a student and she does hospitality work, which is true. Yeah, and for the most part, I think like 99% of the responses are either positive or kind of inquisitive, but I've never had anyone like straight up have a negative response to that, which is kind of good. And it sort of reflects on the people I've chosen to keep close. Like the people, I enjoy spending time with are all good people, and I think for the most part, like that reflects on their response, really.
I think that equally reflects upon you, my dude.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, they're so in love.
We're adorable.
Cute. Alice, were you dating much before you met Mr. Gray? And what was your dating experience like as a sex worker before you found this beautiful relationship?
I feel like I had a really broad spectrum of experiences in dating, but I am also a serial monogamist. So my first long-term relationship, while I was also a sex worker, was really complex and dramatic. I actually hid my job from that partner for a really, really long time, and it's certainly not a decision that I would A, advise, or B, make again. that ended awfully, and I broke his heart and I broke my own heart, and it was terrible, and I swore that I was never ever going to hide my job again. But it also left me feeling that I was not worthy of love or finding a relationship being a sex worker. That sucked. But the next relationship that I walked into, that was an interesting one, and unfortunately that became abusive. I thought that I was loved and appreciated by this person just because they were willing to tolerate my job, when that was not the case. And that person decided that they wanted to be able to manipulate the way that I was doing my job and who I was, what I could do. So yeah, that ended pretty dramatically as well. But then I had a substantial amount of time by myself and did some work on myself, established personal boundaries, and also some, self-love and self-respect. And I think that in and of itself is what enabled me to have such a happy and successful relationship that I have now.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. That's, it's not great to hear that you had some not so great experiences, but I think that a lot of people listening can relate. And yeah, it's not always an easy road, dating as a sex worker. It just isn't.
No, it's not. Yeah. Unfortunately, there are people out there who see us as a bit of a commodity to profit from or to control and make work for them. Some people fetishize us, and others think that it's just sexy until it's not, and then they don't have the skills to handle it when it's not. Yeah. This is something that many of us go through every single day.
And that, it sounds like with the second partner that you spoke about, that you sort of initially it seemed as though everything was fine and he was completely okay with your work, but then obviously had very strong opinions about what your work actually entailed. So I guess it's the difficulty in when somebody says, yeah, no worries, it's working out whether that is really reflective of what's inside.
Definitely. I think it just speaks to a lack of broader understanding of what sex work actually is, and people's experiences with it. I think that most guys think of sex work as, going to the strippers or maybe going to a brothel, and, it all sounds like a lot of fun at the beginning, but then when they're actually faced with that on an intimate level, not many have the experience or the knowledge to work with it, particularly in an intimate setting.
So something we hear a lot is that there's this assumption that as a sex worker, if you're in a relationship with somebody, that it must be some kind of open or non-monogamous relationship. So Mr. G, what are your thoughts on being monogamous when Alice is obviously intimate with her clients?
I think it's just like, ultimately, the framework comes down to the fact that she's having sex with other people in a workplace context. Like, just the same, like if I was dating a chef, like how could I be mad that they're going out and cooking food for other people? Like, that's like, it's a job, like we're all in this sort of thing together, this system where like we have to do, things for money to exist in this society. So, it's just in this context, it's sex and sex associated things. So I think like at the end of the day, it's like, all right, cool, we all leave home and do something, but at the end of the day, we both come together and we spend time together after, like outside of that workplace, context. So like, I'm not going to get mad at an accountant because, they're off, doing someone else's accounting stuff, like it's just...
It's funny that you call it accountant.
Yeah. Good analogy.
That's ultimately it just boils down to the fact that it's work, sex work is work. So yeah, it's like, we're all leaving to go to work and we're doing different things. So yeah.
It's helpful that we have different definitions of intimacy and those values don't strictly rely solely on sex. We find other ways to be intimate with each other, like cooking for each other and like spending personal time together, that are just as, if not more, meaningful. And it means that we're not placing the values of our relationship on the backbone of one insignificant construct.
Alice, could I ask, have you ever felt pressure either internally or externally to not pursue monogamy as a sex worker?
Yeah. When that first relationship ended, I had this impression that I was never going to be able to have a monogamous relationship as a sex worker. And so I thought, maybe I need to explore being open or being poly. And so I dated some people who were in open and poly relationships, but I just found that I got really jealous sharing other people intimately. And it wasn't about the sex, it was about the emotional connection. And I wanted to have my partner there with me, for me, and I didn't want to have to share them with anybody else.
Alice, have you had any awkward reactions from clients when you came out about being in a relationship?
I think once again, I've had a really broad spectrum of responses to speaking about my relationships, or my relationship with my clients. There have been a few clients who have developed feelings, romantic feelings for me, which is lovely and beautiful, and I feel very flattered. They haven't responded well to the idea of me being in a relationship, so unfortunately those people are no longer my clients. But generally the response has been really nice and supportive. Many of the couples that I see think it's fantastic, and we sort of trade, random couple anecdotes. But no, it's been mostly lovely.
I'm thinking about this for myself because I was in a relationship when I entered the industry. There's got to be a thought process about when do you know it's serious enough
Definitely
that you decide to be open with your clients. Is that a factor?
Yeah, that is really interesting. I think when I feel more able to speak freely about my relationship with clients who are in relationships themselves. And so we can just very comfortably share stories, and that's fine. But when it comes to actually having to set a boundary when maybe navigating a client's feelings, that can be a little bit awkward. And if you're not at a stage where you feel that your relationship is sort of serious enough to disclose, but that's something that you want to mention, it can be tough. But that's okay. You just put your big girl pants on and we do our best.
So have you guys faced any challenges as a couple relating to your work? And if so, how have you managed to overcome them?
I think the biggest challenges for us have been in any relationship, there's, issues around work and hours and that sort of balancing, the time out, spent working, especially in an industry such as sex work where, it's not a 9 to 5. It's, there's overnights, long bookings, short bookings, touring, all that kind of stuff. So it's mostly around that, it's like, in between lockdowns when Alice goes, is trying to reclaim get some cash back, so she's out there working pretty hard, and it's kind of like, oh, hello.
Hi. Yeah.
I'm here as well.
This is my girlfriend.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, there's been, some days where I've put in some long hours as well. So it's just sort of balancing that and understanding that sometimes, you got to put the pedal to the metal a bit and work a little bit harder. And one of the positive sides of the pandemic is, we've got to spend a lot more time together because of that. But
it has been lovely.
Yeah. I think that's been the biggest issue for me.
I think that's probably similar to the experience of anybody in a partnership with somebody who runs their own business.
Definitely.
To an extent.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. That is, it's sort of a 24/7 gig. So
I have very similar feelings about it. And I've noticed that, as I took on that role in hospitality between lockdowns when we couldn't quite do sex work, but I needed to do something to A, keep me occupied, and B, earn money. It's just hard navigating two different working styles. But as Greg said, it's been beautiful to have this time together during lockdown. One of the silver linings is that we get this time. So I'm certainly grateful for it. And a funny kind of complication is that I get really excited if I think that a client of mine might be, a celebrity or someone cool or interesting, and I want to talk about it. But we have set firm boundaries around not discussing who my clients are or what they do or what we do together. And so sometimes Greg will need to remind me, hey, I want to know. And I'll get so excited and want to talk about this cool person that I've met, but I can't.
That's so interesting because I tell Mr. Love everything. So are you able to elaborate more on those boundaries?
Yeah, it just comes down to specifics, really. Like, I'm happy to talk about work and, like, I'm aware of what sex work entails. It's more just, like, I don't really want to know the specifics. Like, I don't really want to know who they are. I don't really want to know, like, as long as Alice is, the booking went well, she had a good time, she got paid and, like, that's great. Happy to talk about sort of maybe things that didn't go so well. If she wants to vent, that's fine. But, yeah, just sort of the specifics, it's just like, just not really interested in knowing. And I think I couldn't rationalize why that is, but it's just something which sort of makes me feel a bit more comfortable, I guess.
It's very healthy to have boundaries in any relationship. It's sensible, regardless of what your partner's job is and regardless of what those boundaries surround. And you just find or identify places that you feel you can, make yourself feel a little bit more comfortable, and that's really healthy. And the fact that you can communicate that with each other is also really nice.
I also think that would be quite common and necessary in a lot of relationships where one partner is, say, working in the medical field or working in law or something where confidentiality is, really important. So it's not all that unusual.
Yeah,
really.
for sure.
Or for like international spies.
Them too.
Absolutely. I've always wanted to be an international spy. So, Greg, this is great training.
Maybe you are. Maybe sex work is just your cover. He wouldn't know.
Hey, it would be an excellent cover.
Oh, man. Layers. Jesus.
Layers.
Greg made a really good analogy once saying, so he was working in the hospitality adjacent field and was saying, look, Alice, you really wouldn't be interested in the ins and outs of my day today, so I'm not going to share them with you. And I went, actually, that's a really good point. It'd be really fucking boring. So I get it, and I don't feel bad that I can't share the ins and outs of my bookings with him.
Of course.
You can just share them with us instead.
Yay!
We have some questions that our patrons have submitted very kindly. They're very interested to know some more about you both. Mr. G, have you ever met any escorts before Alice that you know of?
Not to my knowledge. One thing I've realised since being in a relationship with Alice is that if you're like a face-in worker, like you generally are very, very good at, keeping that under wraps. So very potentially, but not to my knowledge.
Stigma, it's a shit, hey?
I have met many more since dating Alice now.
Now you know. You go,
Yeah.
So you may not have known before all the ones you were meeting. Yeah.
This makes me think that the hardest part of dating a sex worker is keeping up with the amount of names that their friends have.
100%. 100%.
Okay, this is a big question from a patron. Alice, has sex work ever given you interesting insights that are related to your scientific pursuits or vice versa?
Ooh, interesting. Do you know what? My experiences with clients have led me to pursue the career that I'm currently pursuing. I am currently studying a postgraduate degree in psychology purely because I love my interactions with my clients, and I find it so interesting to A, learn about their lives, and B, maybe encourage them to take journeys that they otherwise wouldn't have embarked on. And yeah, so that's I don't really want to disclose specifically where I would like to end up, but yeah, that definitely led me into this journey. So thank you to all of my beautiful clients for helping me find something that I'm really passionate about.
Wow. So before that wasn't something that you were strongly considering. It was, you had other life, goals and decisions, and that grew with the relationship with your clients.
Yeah, definitely. I fresh out of high school, I embarked on a really long degree in biomedicine, had a background in genetics and muscular dystrophy. I thought I was going to be a doctor, did all of the thesis writing and battles with a supervisor, only to get to the end of it and go, wow, I hate this. What am I going to do now? Yeah, so I took a year off to sort of collect my thoughts and was reflecting on my time in the industry and realised that there are just so many transferable skills that people don't realise we have. Sex workers generally have so much compassion and empathy for their clients, and I think that we could really utilise that in the world.
Question for Mr. G. What first attracted you to Alice?
I thought she was physically very attractive. That gives you the swipe right on Tinder.
It's such a diplomatic way to put it.
But it was more,
she was a babe.
Yeah, it was more like the bio. Like there was a lot going on. Like a person who had a lot of interests and obviously was very intelligent. So yeah, a combination of those two, I think. And just like the conversation was like immediately very engaging. We were having great chat from the get-go. And yeah, it's just like one of those times where you're like, oh yeah, cool, this is great, just from the get-go. It wasn't like a slow build or anything like that. I mean, like our first date, like, we were just meeting for coffee and we went and got some drinks, and it was just like this, ended up being this like
4 hours later.
Yeah, huge date on a Sunday kind of thing.
Nice. Love that. So Alice, same question for you. What first attracted you to him?
Oh my God, I'm a snob, and I love the fact that he had a professional photo as his Tinder bio picture. I was so sick of scrolling through like
Fish pics.
Terrible selfies. Yeah.
So many fish pics.
So many fish pics. Yeah, the only things that really interested me on Tinder were pictures of people's pets and nice photos. So it was definitely this beautiful profile picture, and let's be honest, I'm a sucker for a bearded man.
If a photo of fish would dry me the fuck up. I cannot.
They do it all the
fish?
time.
Why are you showing me a fish?
The most common things that I see on Tinder when I do bother to go on the awful app is guys like holding dead fish, or a whole lot of dead fish, and they're like, look at me, the hunter. I provide for you.
No.
You know?
Why are you holding a dead fucking animal?
Yeah, it's not sexy.
Second one is them sticking their finger up in their photo like it's some sort of edgy. I go, who looks at that and goes, that's hot?
I don't like dating 12-year-olds. Sorry.
Not attracted to edgelords, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, and then the other one is them with just a picture of their car. And I'm like, never have I seen a picture of a car and gone, I want to date a guy because of the car he drives.
Yeah, car pictures are really common.
I love my car. I'm proud of my car. I really enjoy it. But I don't use it as a dating thing. Like,
Look at the things
what
I
drive.
have. It's like from which Avengers movie? Like, behold my stuff.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, I have a friend who's she's going through the internet dating kind of perils as someone in her late 30s, and just some of the shit she shares with us. It's just like you said, like guys like throwing up gang signs and like middle fingers and fishing and drug tigers in Bali and stuff, and yeah, it's kind of wild.
Oh yeah, the tigers. Yeah.
Who told them that women want that? Who told them that?
I think this is the thing. Like, this isn't like no one's told them. They're just kind of like, well, I like this picture, then therefore a woman must love this picture, you know? Like,
male gaze thing, isn't it?
yeah, that's probably
Looking at it through a bloke's eyes. Well, this is what I think's cool, not what would a woman find
the fourth
attractive.
category is photos where they look like serial killers.
I've got a lot of those.
And they're like,
Yeah.
and you're like, why are you so angry? That's not appealing.
Yeah.
I don't want to be attacked by you.
I think they're trying to be moody.
Yeah, like
broody. But like, I want somebody who's emotionally on top of their shit. I don't
Yeah,
want,
same.
what do you,
One of us has to be in this relationship, and it's not me, so it may as well be great.
it ain't gonna be me.
Exactly.
You need to represent stability because that's not. I'm not delivering.
Alice, what advice would you give to sex workers who are dating or looking for a relationship in general?
Gosh, this is so close to my heart. Firstly, I think that it's important to remember that we shouldn't be defined by our sexual pasts or preferences. Broader society likes to teach us that we are unworthy of love if we lead sexually rich lives, and that's just not the case. We are all worthy of love, respect, and kindness. Secondly, I think that personal boundaries are really important, and it is equally important not to compromise on those. Don't let other guys try and tell you how you run your business or live your life. Live your life for yourself, and the right person will come along to join you.
It goes back to like enthusiastic, especially with internet dating. Like, it goes back to enthusiastic consent. Like, if it's not a fuck yes, it's a no. If it's not someone who's like hell yeah, don't waste your time. You know, you've got better things to do.
Don't think that you can change the guy who says that he tolerates your job.
Yeah, somebody who tolerates you or accepts you is just not. It's not a high enough standard. Soz.
No, it's not. It's not good enough. You deserve to be cherished and supported and lifted up by the person that you love. A really lovely friend of mine by the name of Georgie Wolfe runs a blog called The Art of the Hookup. And a part of that is teaching people how to date online during the pandemic and how to interact with people and maybe begin relationships or just communicate. So for hot tips, go support that amazing human because they are excellent.
And they've just started up a new podcast called The Satisfaction Project, which is related to that and worth checking out too.
Just to go off on that, like we moved in together February before the pandemic like really kicked off. So we had like 2 or 3 months experience sort of like living together, and then it was like, well, you know, get used to it. But yeah, like I think if we were by ourselves, like I would certainly be a basket case right now. I'm not.
Definitely.
Like you, Holly. Like, you know, the basket case that you
Like
are.
I am.
That's what he would be like.
I am a basket. Yeah, I know. Thank you so much for joining us today, Alice and Mr. G. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Really interesting to hear your perspectives. I think we've got a lot of really fascinating insights from you both today, and we feel very privileged to have had you join us.
Thank you so much for having us.
So much for having us.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yay. See you later, guys.
Bye.
Do you miss the free and affordable ads and social networks without all of the anti-sex rhetoric?
Assembly 4 is a team of sex workers and technologists from Melbourne, Australia, aiming to bring back free and fair advertising and social spaces to the sex working community.
Stepping away from the clunky design of traditional platforms, their two products, Tryst.link and Switter.at, are refreshing and well-needed changes in both presentation and mission.
And both are free to join and open to all.
You can find both of our profiles on Tryst, and I love how it is so clearly designed by sex workers.
Yep, and I love how straightforward and easy it is to use and how much they clearly support the sex working community.
And also how responsive they are when it comes to feedback and customer service.
Check out their website assembly4.com for the word, not the number, for more info. Question of the week. This year, I met a sex worker at a brothel and we had an amazing first session. I started seeing her regularly aside from periods of lockdown. Over the course of our sessions, I've gotten to know her better and I am feeling a very strong connection to her because of our shared interests, sense of humour, discussions, and of course, great sexual compatibility. She often tells me how I am attractive to her, gives me compliments, does things, and makes allowances for me that she doesn't offer other clients. Following this, she has recently given me her email in order to make a private booking with her outside of the brothel, and we have been chatting on social media too. I've got the feels for her big time and genuinely want to be more than a client. I'm not sure how to approach this as I want to ask her out, but at the same time I'm aware that part of her job is to provide the fantasy of a lover. I'm scared to tell her how I feel because I'm worried she might not feel the same and I'd have to stop seeing her because of my strong feelings. How should I let her know that I'm interested in more? After or before a booking? Via email, message? I don't know what to do. Please help.
My answer is that you don't. I'm somebody I've dated 3 clients. I am not opposed to the idea of dating clients. I don't think that there should be necessarily this big, you cannot date clients. I mean, we meet people in the workplace sometimes. We all do. And I think that's totally fair, even though there are some sex workers who have that hard line for themselves, which is fair. In my opinion, if it is going to happen, it has to come from the worker. And that's what happened to me every single time. Those 3 times that I dated somebody who I'd met as a client, I said, hey, do you want to maybe not pay me or, whatever? I had to initiate it. And all 3 of them at first didn't want to do that. They were like, oh, no, I'm paying for your time. This is, and they pushed back. And in my opinion, that is how it has to be. I mean, you don't have to necessarily push back. You can just say, yeah, fuck yeah, let's go for it. Because the thing is, and it's not always going to be this way, but the status quo is that we know you're into us, right? I don't want to be too brutal about it, but you're paying to spend time with us. So we've got this baseline of, well, you at least find us attractive in some way, you enjoy it, you keep coming back. So we've already got that, and that puts us in the position to be able to say, look, I think that this relationship could become something else. I don't think that the client is in the position to say that because you honestly don't really have an idea of how we are feeling. And I don't want to, I don't know this worker, I don't know the people involved in this situation, but the fact that you have shared interests, that you have great sexual compatibility, that she does things for you that she won't allow other clients to do, you don't know any of that. The reality is she might say to every single client, oh, I don't let anyone else do this like that. And I'm not suggesting that that is what she does, but she might. Sexual compatibility, shared sense of humor, shared interests, those are all things we're really good at doing. That's our job. I have clients who I think have such a lame sense of humor, but I lean into it and I laugh at their jokes, and I'll make the same kinds of jokes because I'm creating a rapport and I'm giving them a nice time. So it's really, really hard to know if you're not getting anything from her. So my answer is not that it can't be something else, but if it is going to be something else, it has to come from her. And if it comes from you, I don't think it'll end well.
I'm going to go the entire 180 degree other way. I'm sorry to the listener who's asked this question because you're going to get two different opinions, but I entirely disagree. I think it's a really difficult situation, obviously, because as Jenna said, we really try to make things comfortable for you, and I adore a lot of my clients. Does that mean that I want to take it further? Almost always, probably not. I'm very happy in my independence and I don't really need anyone. I still adore my clients as friends and, I care about them and I enjoy our sex, blah, blah, blah. But it's a very rare occasion when I do meet somebody where I would want to take it to the next level. That being said, when Jenna said that we know you're attracted to us, that's very different knowing that you want to fuck me than knowing that you want to be with me and that you would like to pursue something more. So I would never presume that a client would want to date me, even if I wanted to date them. I don't think I would feel comfortable to tell a client my feelings, but that's something I personally struggle with. I don't think I've ever been able to tell anyone that I've had feelings for them until they've told me because I'm terrified of making myself vulnerable and being rejected. So, fuck, that's hard. I don't know. I think I prefer if clients are feeling like they're starting to cross boundaries emotionally and they're starting to feel like they are getting feelings for me, I'd prefer they do let me know. I think it's, there's such a big spectrum of feelings. If you feel like you just get a little bit of a flutter when you're together, so cool. If you feel like it's like a healthy little crush that you just get a thrill when we chat, cool, that's all fine. But if you're starting to feel like it's affecting you emotionally or you're not able to make appropriate decisions when you spend money seeing me or you're putting yourself in dodgy positions, then it's probably best that you let me know so that I can then draw appropriate lines in the sand and say maybe you need to take a little bit of a break, cool things down a bit, or maybe you need to find someone else because this is not something that I can ethically take part in. So, gosh, it's complicated. Personally, if a client is getting feelings for me, I want to know if they think that it's a concern. And, gosh, it's such a hard thing because I have met clients that I would date, but I don't think they would date me. So do you tell her, do you not?
Yeah, but I think they would. And I think that is just you not seeing what other people see in you.
No, I disagree. So this is a really difficult one to answer because, look, I'll tell you my instinct is that probably not. Probably she's not into you, and that's really, really rough, being very blunt, but the odds are she's just doing her job and she's just really good at it.
She may be into you, but isn't interested in having a full-on relationship with you.
Well, that's it. Yeah, she may very well enjoy you as a person, but yeah, she may not want what you want. I don't think there is harm, in my opinion, in expressing how you feel, but you do have to be prepared that if you do that, she says, I can't see you anymore. That's how it goes.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, you can go ahead with it, but
shoot your shot.
You have to know that it might end it.
But it could be a romantic love story as well. So this is just the hardest question ever, and I don't have an answer for you because I'm waiting for my own Prince Charming. In this situation, I think it would be best to say something to the worker like, obviously, I'm really happy with how things are going. I love seeing you in the dynamic that we have now. But if there was ever room or space in your life or you had any interest in us taking things to a different level or seeing each other in a civilian or a romantic sense, then I would be open to that. Obviously, I'm not pushing for that and I'm really happy to continue as a client and how things are now. That's great. But I just want you to know that if that was ever a consideration, that's something I'm open to. I think that for me is sort of straddling the line. So you're making it really clear to that worker that that's an option if that is something that she feels. And if not, that you're not the sort of person who is wanting to cross boundaries and that you're not hinging the whole client provider dynamic on whether or not she says yes or no, that you are happy. And I would say also, don't say that if that's not how you feel. If you really don't think you can continue to be a client, if she doesn't want to date you, then be honest and tell her the truth, because there's no point in just ripping your heart out by pretending that it's okay and making her uncomfortable. But I do believe that it is nice to be honest and to shoot your shot and take a chance. As I said before, don't expect that it will go 100% well. But yeah, I think communication is important.
It's now time for us to thank our wonderful patrons for their generous and continued support of the show. Without you, we would not be able to dedicate the amount of time and energy that we currently do, and we are endlessly grateful for your support.
This week, we have a new giving somebody, which is John. Our new generous somebodies are Nathan and Clayton. And we have a new very generous somebody, which is Olivia.
Our even more generous somebodies are Timmy, Andrew, Adam Smith, Leo, Lachlan, Sub London, Miss Billy, Nora Knightley, Leslie, Scott Watson, Andrew, Big M, our secret admirer, Mudgy, Margaret, and Wheezy.
And our extremely generous somebodies are Aaron, Samuel, Andrew, Pete, Theodore Betts the First Esquire, and the incredible Amanda Valentina.
Thank you so much for listening yet again. We look forward to catching you next week. Please look out for us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon. Our name everywhere is Somebody You Pod, as in podcast. Our Patreon starts at just $3 a month, and you can get all of our episodes ad-free and a day early, plus bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes action, bloopers, and more. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the voices of sex workers. And remember, somebody you love might just be a sex worker.